Hey everybody, and good evening. Today is September 6th, 2018. Welcome to a special Thursday night edition of the Gematrinator podcast. Today we got the 25th edition of the podcast. And, for a little piece of organic numerology to kick this thing off, 25, a number of pi, something I talk about a lot in my work, especially as of late, decoding a lot of pi rituals, as we've seen in the news. Well, in Jewish gematria, pi equals 69, and today's date, the 6th of September, written 6/9 internationally. And if you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about, if you just happen to be new to this, what we're discussing here is the ancient language of Gematria. This is also called Gematria or Gematria. It's the ancient practice of coding numbers into words. Very simple practice. You number the alphabet 1 through 26, A through Z. You can also flip the alphabet around for a complementary cipher called reverse ordinal. Both methods can then be reduced to a single digit using the rules of numerology. So in full reduction, each double-digit number gets reduced to a single digit. R, for instance, R the 18th letter, 1 plus 8 equals 9. In the reverse order, R is the 9th letter, and you'll see the 18th letter is I. 1 plus 8 equals 9. Both I and R are both worth 9 in each method. So anyway, we'll be discussing that as we go along, and what we'll be revealing is how this language of letters and numbers is used alongside dates on the calendar, and it seems to be scripting out our mainstream media. Now, it is my take on it that a lot of these stories that we'll be covering tonight are fake or fabricated. Of course, the only evidence I can provide for that is numerical, but I think you'll find it pretty fascinating. There's definitely an agenda going on in this country, and it seems like this Masonic order is operating by this code on the daily in the mainstream media, and we're going to discuss that right off the bat. We'll start with today's shooting in Cincinnati, Ohio. And, so often the gematria of the city in which these attacks occur match the date numerology. In this case, we had a shooting at Fifth Third Bank, and no number inserted in the media is a mistake. And think about Fifth Third Bank, right? The numbers 5 and 3. Today, 9 plus 6 plus 20 plus 18, the date numerology of 53. As I've been revealing in my work over the past several months especially, all of these events appear to be scripted in relation to the dates that the local politicians took office. So in the case of a big city, you want to look at the mayor. You also want to look at the state governor. And this works internationally as well. Mayors of big cities, prime ministers, presidents of other nations. And there's also a historical riddle in a lot of these stories too. So as we go on, we'll be covering a number of news stories. One of these stories is the fire at the National Museum of Brazil. And if you want to deep dive into that, I actually have a video on that and the San Bernardino shooting on my channel that I put up earlier this week. So in this case, here we have a shooting in downtown Cincinnati. We're going to be looking at the mayor of Cincinnati, a guy named John Joseph Cranley, and we'll discuss why both the mayor of Cincinnati is named John, also the governor of Ohio named John as well. So this guy, John Cranley, was born in 1974. Measuring from the date that he was sworn into office, back on December 1st, 2013, to the date of today's shooting is exactly 1,740 days. Now in numerology, zeros in the results of these equations are ignored. So in numerology, this reflects a 174. And using the reverse alphabetic order, the city of Cincinnati has a gematria value of 174. Now, if you look up the history of Cincinnati and the etymology specifically, you'll see that it was named after something called the Society of the Cincinnati. And this was a society that the Continental Army and many of the states prior to the Revolutionary War, actually after the Revolutionary War, belonged to. And it's interesting that in something called English Extended Gematria, this is the cipher on the left here, it's actually constructed more closely to the ancient Hebrew and Greek ciphers, 1 through 9, 10 through 90, and then 100 through 800. On the right is a slightly different cipher called Jewish Gematria that we'll be discussing as well, a very significant cipher too. Well, in this larger English extended method, Society of the Cincinnati sums to 1,740. A lot like how Cincinnati equals 174 in reverse. And again, the mayor, 1,740 days into his term in office. So 174 is a significant number. You know, this whole language is biblical, and a lot of this comes from the riddle about the number of the beast in Revelation. Number of the beast sums to 174 in the alphabetic order. New World Order, 174, but think about this in terms of minutes. If you convert 174 minutes to hours, you find it's 2 hours and 54 minutes. Not only does Cincinnati sum to 174 reverse, but in Jewish Gematria it sums to 254. And the significance of 254 comes from the word time. Time in English extended equals 254. This number comes from the Metonic cycle. It's a period of 235 synodic months and 19 solar years. You add these numbers together, you get 254. Thus, there's also 254 sidereal months in this same cycle of 19 years. So the town of Cincinnati, the gematria of it, very clearly attribute to time. Now, when you add the state that Cincinnati is in, you find that Cincinnati, Ohio sums to 235. And again, the Metonic cycle, a period of 19 years and 235 synodic months. Also think about how the mayor of Cincinnati goes by Mayor John Cranley. And in reverse gematria, this also sums to 235. But let's take another look at the Society of the Cincinnati. Check out their founding date, May 13th, 1783. The first thing that jumps out about this date is that it's the same date that John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, was born on. See, he's born May 13th of the year 1952. So measuring from May 13th, 1783 to the date of this shooting, we find it's a little over 235 years. Again, Cincinnati, Ohio, 235, just like their mayor, the number of synodic months in the Metonic cycle. In reverse gematria, the phrase Metonic cycle sums to 197. And think about it. The Metonic cycle, a period of 19 years. 19 years also sums to 197 in that same method. And here we're talking about a shooting at Fountain Square. Fountain Square sums to 197 reverse ordinal. This number was not lost on the mayor, John Cranley, whose name in ordinal sums to 197. Now, talking about John Cranley, this guy is the 69th mayor in the history of Cincinnati. You'll see that's what his wiki page here. There's also a page called Ballotpedia, I guess, that you can also use to verify this. But so yeah, the 69th mayor of the city. And think about today's date. The 6th of September, 6/9. And this brings us to Ohio, right? We've been talking about Cincinnati and its history. Well, the state of Ohio was admitted to the Union in 1803. When we write out the date, September 6th, we get a value of 183. The state of Ohio, a significant tribute to time as it appears. Ohio summing to 47 and 61, reverse, just like the word time, 47 and 61. So we were talking about Mayor John Cranley. John equals 47 and 61. And their governor is John Kasich, also spells his name John. When we talk about time, we're talking about this biblical riddle that ties in the beast. Both time and beast have gematria of 47. Of course, undoubtedly, the number of the beast is 666, as we learn in the book of Revelation. In a cipher called Reverse Sumerian, which is the reverse alphabetic order multiplied by 6, this is the cipher that's said to reveal the number of the beast, but the name Kasich equals 666. So does the name Cranley, the mayor's name. Both the name of the mayor and the governor both have 666 gematria. It's actually kind of funny. So now this brings us to the number 44. Still looking at the alphabetic order, the word clock sums to 44. Of course, this is what we use to keep time on. The word shooting equals 44. The mayor, John Cranley, 44 years old, but also from the date that he took office back in December, it was exactly a span of 4 years and 40 weeks. Again, the number 44. In fact, if you measure from his birthday, February 28th, to the day of the shooting, you get 191 days with the end date. The phrase active shooter, gematria of 191. So then this brings us to the number 116. And we start by looking at the calendar. September 6th, the date that leaves 116 days in the year. I noticed the state of Ohio has 116,000 square kilometers. I don't know if that's random or not, but it's interesting because if you measure from May 13th, right, that's the birthday of John Kasich, the governor, also the date of establishment for the Society of the Cincinnati. Measuring from that date to the date of the shooting was 116 days. Again, 116 days left in the year. In Gematria, Society of the Cincinnati, 1016, Satanic Gematria. I noticed Thursday, the date of the shooting, right, sums to 116 ordinal. Now, for anyone new, this may seem a little out there, but a lot of my work incorporates solar eclipses, measuring to the nearest total solar eclipse, and how these numbers seem to be significant in a lot of these false flag rituals. And think about eclipse summing to 33, just like false flag. Eclipse in Hebrew equals 156, just like false flag in Jewish, by the way. But anyway, yeah, this event, 1 year and 16 days after the Great American Total Eclipse. So several 116 alignments with the governor, the society, and dates on the calendar. So John Kasich on this date, 399 weeks old. We just saw this number pop up with the term of Rick Scott in Florida. Murder equals 399 in Jewish gematria. And then the headline that CNN gave us summed to 399 as well. And also we were talking about that 33 eclipse in false flag. All of these other words, masonry, police, secrecy, have gematria of 33. This false flag, again, on a date with 33 numerology. And check out the Jewish gematria of 5th third, the name of the bank where this shooting was at, 330. Also, when we write out 33, it sums to 66, just like the date of the shooting, September 6th. Governor Kasich, 66 years old, and he's 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days after his birthday. So, if that seems a little uncoordinated to you, it might be. This is definitely a big numeric ritual for Cincinnati and Ohio, but that's how it all goes, you know. All of these things being carried out by the numbers. And we don't even have the name of the shooter yet. I'm sure we're going to get some sort of pie tribute in there as well. But enough time spent on that. The next story I want to talk about is actually a really fun one. Here we have a story about an emergency landing that an Emirates plane made at JFK Airport yesterday after several passengers reported feeling ill on the flight. So earlier this year, we saw Southwest, in particular, take part in a couple of these rituals. Southwest Airlines, it was like 33 days apart, I believe, where they had incidents where they had to make emergency landings. And of course, the number 33, when spelled out, equals 156, just like emergency landing. So in this case, passengers are said to have had the flu, and flu has double reduction gematria of 27. Remember, they landed at JFK Airport. JFK equals 27. But here we're going to break down how this was all a ritual related to the assassination of JFK, which should sound crazy because it really is. So this emergency landing occurred on September 5th, the date written 9/5, of course, emergency 95. Most of the world writes that date 5/9, and in reduction, John F. Kennedy equals 59. Again, the plane landing at JFK Airport. Notice how they reported JFK handled just over 59 million passengers last year? This could be just a piece of numerology by Wikipedia, which they seem to like to do, because 59 is the 17th prime number. 59 million passengers in 2017. But here's where it gets really interesting. So it was an Emirates plane that landed. And anytime you look at the company that's involved, you want to try and find the founding date. In this case, Emirates founded on March 25th, 1985. That means measuring from their anniversary to the date of this incident was 23 weeks and 3 days. Using the alphabetic order, John Fitzgerald Kennedy equals 233. They said it was Flight 203 with flight numbers. You write them out as you would say them. Nobody says Flight 203 unless you're a weirdo. But using the reverse alphabetic order, Flight 203 equals 233. Of course, the number 203 represents a 23, just like the date numerology. But talking about Flight 203, this sums to 199. I love how they told us it was probably influenza, which also equals 199. So it's been 54 years since the JFK assassination. And JFK has Gematria in reverse of 54. So does the location that he was murdered at, Dealey Plaza, which sums to 54 as well. And here we are talking about an Emirates flight. In that same method, reverse reduction, Emirates sums to 54. So you write out the number 54, and not only do you get a result of 54 in